Welcome to the Real News Network, folks. This is Mark Steiner. Good to have you with us. On July the 11th in Germany, in Bonn, Germany, an event took place. A man wearing a yarmulke, who turned out to be a professor here from Baltimore City, where we broadcast from, was attacked by a man in the street, yelling threats at him because he was a Jew, as a Jew. Then he was attacked later by the police who came in to investigate the event. Well, that's the issue that we're going to address with our guest, but it's beyond that. It really begs a lot of the questions that we have to wrestle with about anti-Semitism, about Islamophobia, about the anti-Arab and anti-Islamic feeling all through Europe and what those mean, and how these are all joined together in this very interesting story. And Professor Yitzhak Melamed is with us here in studio. He is the Charlotte Bloomberg Professor of Philosophy at Johns Hopkins University and joins us in-house here. And Yitzhak, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
So just very quickly, take us back to July 11th, the exact thing that happened. Tell the story quickly about what happened to you on that day.
So I came to give a talk. I didn't have much time to spend in Bonn, so I came just for 2 days. I was supposed in the evening to give a keynote talk at a pretty prestigious seminar. And I was walking around, I think it was 1 or 2 o'clock. I was walking on the street, a very central place in
daytime,
Bonn.
We're talking about.
Yeah, daytime, of course.
Right.
Then I was approached by someone who appears like, I don't know whether a teenager or a young person who saw me and asked me, bist du Jude? I mean, whether I'm Jewish. And I said yes. And he told me that he's Palestinian in German. And I started saying that, well, calm down. And just to say that he should not see me as an enemy. And
you said that to him?
Yeah. And then immediately started with all kinds of anti-Semitic slurs and shouting all kinds of anti-Semitic slogans or whatever. And then he basically threw my kippah on the ground. I picked it up. He threw it again. I picked it up. It repeated itself for 3 times. During that time, I was with my Bonn University colleague, Dr. Lina Steiner, and she called the police. She asked the police to come. The event took, it kept on roughly in the same kind of the same kind of atmosphere and back and forth for about 20 minutes. It took the police 20 minutes, if not more, to come. And then when they came, the person started running away, the person who attacked me. Once he heard the siren and all this kind of stuff. So once he was about to disappear from eyesight, I started running after him. I never had any kind of, perhaps it was my error. But I never had any kind of experience of that sort. Thinking that, it's not healthy that a person like that is just going to stay in the street. I'm not in favor of incarceration, but I think that there is a need we need to deal with people with violent tendencies. And so I started running after him, and I didn't realize, but then the police started running, and I was sure that the police is also running after that guy. He was about to disappear, and then suddenly I saw 2 policemen running. The person who attacked me was running just between them. They didn't realize that. And then these 2 policemen, together with other 2 or 3 policemen, all 4 or 5 of them jumped on me, and they put me into the ground with my face into the ground. And then they started punching me dozens of times, punching my face. Without even waiting for a minute, they put my hands in handcuffs and kept on punching, just without any. And at some point, I was first shocked, and then I was starting to shout in English. I'm the wrong person. Open my bag, see my ID. They barely understood English. Policemen in Germany are not particularly intelligent people, and so they opened the bag, and then after 3-4 minutes, they caught the guy who attacked me. And so at that point, they released me from the handcuffs, and then one of the policemen, still I think he didn't understand what was going on, so he told me in kind of a broken English that I should not get in trouble with the German police. At which point I was pretty sardonic and told him that, the German police murdered my grandfather, they murdered my grandmother, they murdered my aunt, and they murdered my uncle, all in the Holocaust in one day, and that I'm not afraid of any more of the German police. I don't think he understood what was the context at all, what I was speaking about. They realized they made an error, and then they asked me, and also they brought me and Dr. Steiner and to the entry into to the area of entry into the park, and they asked us whether we are willing to come to the police station to give testimony about the attack. And we said, yes, of course we will. I mean, we are going to go there. So we went, we were clearly indicated as people who are going to file the complaint rather than anything else. So we went to the police station, at which point I asked them, why did you attack me? And they said that they thought that I'm running away, that they confused me for the attacker. And said, yeah, I can understand that. Although I was with a yarmulke, so you had to be blind, but good for you. But what's the point of the punches? I mean, even if I were the attacker, I mean, there was no justification for this kind of violence. It's not the job of the police in a democratic society to attack people and start punishing them. There is a legal system. That's something they must have known. And at that point, they were trying to say, well, perhaps it was, I mean, you touched our hand. You touched the hand. I said, no, it's a lie. I didn't touch the hand of anyone. So perhaps it was just a reflex. I said, forget about it. It's a lie. I didn't touch the hand of anyone. There was no reflex. You're just lying. It was quite pathetic because for the next 20 minutes, they were trying to convince me that perhaps there was some sort of a reflex in which I touched the hand of anyone. And then their commander, a woman who was not involved in the attacking itself, but she started insinuating, as well as some of the other policemen, that if I file a complaint, they are going to file a complaint against me. Now, Dr. Steiner from Bonn University, just sitting next to me in the room, hearing the entire conversation, and we're saying, where are we? I mean, is it the Stasi? I mean, what kind of police are we talking about? And so basically I told them, no, I'm sorry, I'm insisting, I'm going to file a complaint against you. You attacked me. There was no justification for your violence. End of conversation. At that point, I think they heard, came some order from the supervisors in the police that they need to bring me to an interrogation in the special unit for so-called political crimes, which is basically dealing with hate crimes. They brought me to this special unit. I mean, then I met a completely different kind of investigator. Was much more kind, much more helpful. In the first police station, no one offered me a glass of water or even just to wash my face because my face
was bloody.
Yeah, it was covered with blood. Lena told me. I mean, that's. I asked her how I looked like. She said, like Jesus. I mean, that's. And so. So we went to the second police station. At that point, the policeman just came to the parking lot asking me, what happened? That's what this bandit did to you? And I said, no, I'm sorry. That's what the German police did to me. He covered his face and said, oh no. And then he went to speak with his supervisors, returned back after 15 minutes and told me, okay, so what do you want to do? I said, it's in your interest that I file a complaint against the police because it's your country. If you're going to support and tolerate police violence, it's going to act against you at the end of the day, not against me. I have no plans to have any kind of further encounters with the German police. Eventually, he said, okay, you are right. And he took he took my full testimony, and then he asked me also to, and then he filed a complaint in my name. My glasses were broken, so he just wrote it down. I was not able to read it, but he just read it out loud, and I signed it. My talk was supposed to be at 6 o'clock. I mean, all of these things happened between 3 and 5:30. He was kind enough to give me a ride to the hotel. I went to the hotel, washed my face. Dr. Steiner bought me new glasses. And then I went to give the talk 30, 45 minutes late. And then at the end of the talk, during all of this time, I mean, I was with huge amount of adrenaline. I was able to give the talk. My face looked pretty bloody. And then my host wished to take me to a dinner. I said, I'm sorry, I feel very bad. I cannot go to dinner. I mean, I came back to the hotel, and there was a letter from the chief of the police in Bonn, a letter of profuse apologies. I mean, for how horrible we are, sorry we made this mistake, etc. I could not sleep the night due to the kind of violence and then when I woke up at 6:30 in the morning, there was a phone call from the police. Both the chief of the president of the Bonn police and the minister of internal affairs of Westphalia is wishing to speak with me by phone and apologize. I said, okay, fine. I was supposed to leave Germany at 8:15 in the morning. I mean, to take a train to the airport at 8:15 in the morning. I said, okay, let's go with that. I met her at 7:15 at the hotel. She profusely apologized. She said how sorry she is, etc. The Minister of Internal Affairs seems to be actually a decent person. He explained how he's shocked and how he's really interested in asking me to come again to Germany because this kind of acts do not represent Germany. I mean, seems like a decent human being. And we basically departed as friends. Then while I was flying away, I heard the first reports in the German press, which did not identify me as the victim, but they indicated in a kind of a that I was resisting arrest, and that's why I was attacked. And then I found the official police announcement, media announcement from the very same morning, apparently by the president of the Bonn police, in which he said she apologized, and at the same announcement she also mentioned that I resisted and therefore they had to punch me once, just like a kind of educational manner, the new style of German Bildung that they are running. That made me just, the entire feeling was that it's not an apology, they're just covering their ass. I mean, it's just a dirty game. And so I went once I came home, I went to a doctor, I saw a doctor, and then the next morning, I basically just gave a full description of the events. I gave one interview in the German press, and then the entire story came out.
So, I mean, this begs a lot of questions. I mean, for me, I mean, I know the groups like in America, there's a group called Jewish Voice for Peace.
Right.
And their equivalent in Germany came out and attacked the attack on you as an anti-Semitic attack, which was interesting that they did that, given that they're also an organization that opposes the occupation and supports the boycott and divestment in Israel, which was an interesting kind of move on their part. Right. But the larger question here it begs out of that is the reason you were beaten up is not the anti-Semitism that exists in Germany. We can talk about that in a moment. Sure. But one of the reasons you were beaten up because they thought you were the attacker.
Most likely,
right? And so if you had not been of European descent in that German police station, you would never have gotten as far as you got in terms of your complaint with the German police.
No, sure.
If you had been the Palestinian, if you had been an Arab living in, or a Turkish man living in...
No one would care about it. I mean,
no one would care at all.
Of course not. I mean, because so in the same post, I as I mentioned to you, the day after, 2 days after, I gave the detailed description of the event in a post on Facebook. And one thing I just noted in a small sentence that if I was one of the underdogs of German society, no one would care about it. And of course, as you could expect, I got immediately 25 emails and messages from all kinds of people, mostly minorities, but also Germans, who were described how they are abused by the German police. One of them is a horrifying story by a woman working in a nightclub that was sexually assaulted by the Bonn police 4 months ago. Literally sexually assaulted by the Bonn police. So she could not file a claim against because people are afraid of the German police. And there is an institutional culture that is both xenophobic and authoritarian that is running in the German police. And, this kind of silence needs to be broken, must be broken. Because if Germany wants to be a democracy, it cannot keep on playing the same kind of games anymore.
So I'm curious, but both as someone who's now been a victim of this police violence in Germany, and people are victims of police violence every day in cities like Baltimore, where we're broadcasting from, and across this globe. Germany is a place where we know the Holocaust originated.
Sure.
6 million Jews and 5 million others killed in the concentration camps, 11 million people. It is but in many ways, the German state is almost like a philo-Semitic state in terms of they teach children why anti-Semitism is wrong, though anti-Semitism still lives very deeply in that culture and throughout Europe and Eastern Europe, as well as an anti-Islamic feeling, an anti-Arab feeling, an anti-Muslim feeling has great depth. And then you have the contradictions of the Jews in Europe not really trusting the Arabs, and the Arabs in Europe not trusting the Jews. So I'm curious, as a philosopher, as someone who faced all this at once, these are all very contradictory pieces.
Sure.
That that led to what happened to you. And if you had actually been an Arab in Germany, the results could have been much worse.
Of course.
So talk a bit about what all these contradictions mean to you.
Of course, it would be much worse. And right now, the truth is that in Germany, the Jewish community is tiny. I mean, it's likely to disappear within 20 years. I mean, it's
disappear. You said. Right.
My mind. I mean, I don't think there is any future for Jews in Germany. On the other hand, in France, you do have a significant community. And I think that if we are not going to solve the problem of the relationship between Muslims and Jews in places like France, then there is not going to be any future for the Jews. And it's horrible. It's literally horrible. I think it's... there is an urgent need for not only reconciliation, but de-escalation of the relationship between Jews and Muslims, both in Germany and in Europe, and I'm sorry, in Germany and in France. I mean, so that it's absolutely urgent if we want to keep these communities alive. And the Muslims must also understand that if Jews are going to disappear from Europe, they're going to be the next and most clear victims of European xenophobia. Because the only reason why a state like Germany is still allowing for circumcision, for Muslim circumcision, is because they cannot ban Jewish circumcision. And the day in which Jews are not going to be anymore in Germany, both Muslim circumcision and the Muslim halal practice of slaughtering will be banned in all of these countries. So I think it's absolutely the interest of Muslims to support and encourage close relations between Jews and Muslims in Europe, because otherwise they will not survive there as well.
So the other piece of this I think is important to bring out here is that one of the officers, the German policeman who attacked you,
right,
was also brought on the carpet earlier because he used quotes of Goebbels, one of the most vicious Nazis in history, when they were going after a left-wing demonstration in Bonn.
Right. I don't know whether it was in Bonn, but yes.
Wherever that was.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but the point is that 2 weeks after the event, I mean, as I mentioned to you, I got profuse apologies, and I think that most of them, I think were honest, and I got hundreds of letters from German citizens, some mostly from more leftist, liberal tending, but even from relatively conservative people just saying how shocked they are. Then two things happened 2 weeks afterwards. I mean, the one was the following. The police in Westphalia, formed a committee to inquire about the events that happened at that time. It turned out that in Germany, the police investigate itself. They don't have any kind of independent agency that is supposed to investigate the police.
Not so much in Baltimore, most other cities in America, actually.
No, but the violence in the U.S. is far worse in terms of casualties. I mean, there is no question about
guns.
But the basic reason for that is because you have guns. You have so many guns in the distributed among the public. So any kind of encounter between the police and the citizens is prone to be extremely violent because the police, not being the greatest, the most courageous people, they want to cover themselves. And once they think that there is any threat, they act violently in the most violent manner. In Germany, you don't have guns among the public. The public is not creating any kind of threat, is not posing any kind of threat to the police. Now, the other difference, and that's the thing, explains the reason why the casualties in Germany are much lower than in the US.
But the violence from the police to the citizens is the same.
The violence is the same, and what is worse in Germany is that in the US you can file a complaint against the police, and the complaint will go to the Department of Justice or to the FBI. There is a procedure in which the police is not supposed to investigate itself. This is actually also true about Israel. In Germany, the police investigate itself. Literally, it's impossible, by the German law, it's impossible to get an independent authority that is going to investigate the police itself. So it's an authoritarian culture that is basically supporting itself, covering itself in the most despicable manner you can imagine.
But the underlying issues here, to me, whether it's the police in Germany, right, or the police in Baltimore,
right,
or the police in Tel Aviv, I don't care what country you're talking about, is what is the racist reaction of the police, sure, against the people that they're allegedly trying to be helping and to be policing.
That's right.
And that was,
no, of course,
right?
But Mark, so let me just so what happened was that when they formed this committee, my colleague from Bonn gave a deposition before the committee, and she was told that if I'm interested in giving a deposition, I should contact them. For some reason, they cannot write to me. So I immediately wrote to the committee and asked them to give a deposition. And then I got a letter indicating that I'm actually a suspect now. Because, no, I'm not joking. I
know you're not joking, but I'm just... that laugh is the laugh because of the absurdity of the situation.
So it turned out that in addition, they are basically investigating 4 suspicions. 1 is against the guy who attacked me originally, 2 are against the police because they attacked me and made threats. And then the policeman actually just filed a retaliatory claim charging me with assaulting a police officer. Which is, it's a joke that you cannot imagine. I mean, there was, why no one mentioned that for the 2 days in which I've still been in Germany, I was investigated in 2 police stations. No one mentioned a word about me being assaulting. Well, how come? How come the German ambassador to the US called me to apologize if I assaulted a police officer? Is the case that, whenever someone is assaulting a German police officer, the German ambassador is calling to apologize? It's a kind of a wonderful paradise. I'm just wondering where are we living with this kind of behavior? Now, so that was the first thing. The second thing that was just reported 3 days afterwards is that of the 4 policemen who attacked me, 1 is under investigation for police violence. Second one is under investigation for neo-Nazi affiliation because he was running quotes from Goebbels on the official German radio police. This person is still on the street. The event happened 2 years ago. The person was not fired. He was not removed from duty. Even if he has some rights to keep on his occupation, it was the basic commitment of the police, basically to pay him his salary, send him to play Lego. He is not a person that is supposed to meet foreigners in the street. If I'm a minority, I'm not supposed to meet a neo-Nazi in the clothes of the German police and have to deal with him. It's their basic responsibility to avoid such encounters. And the fact that they did not do that is, I don't know how, is it a different Germany? What are we talking about?
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation, and it's good to meet you. Yitzhak Melamed is professor at Johns Hopkins University in philosophy and joins us today to talk about the issues we raised, what happened to him in Germany on July the 11th. We'll be covering this a bit more. Yitzhak, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And I'm Mark Steiner for the Real News Network. Thank you for joining us. Take care.